This is Action and Ambition, the show that takes you all over the world to share interviews with the most successful and relevant people on the planet. Hear their backstory, get the most important lessons they've learned on their road to success, and hear exclusive tips on how to implement their success in your own life. Action and Ambition is brought to you by Entrepreneur Magazine and your host, Andrew Metal.
Thank you for tuning into the Action Ambition podcast. I am Philip Lanos, and today we are joined by Benjamin Lightburn. He's a proven entrepreneur and leader specializing in the research and development and commercialization of novel extraction technologies. He's currently applying this experience to the development of natural psychedelic medicines as CEO and co-founder of Filament Health. Ben, how you doing today, man?
Doing very well. Can't complain.
Yeah, and if we do, I don't think it'll do anything, right?
No one cares.
Yeah, man. I got a chance to talk to you briefly before we started, and I got some good vibes. So why don't I start where I think it usually makes most sense when we're exploring someone's journey. When you were 7 years old, were you into business and tech, or were there other things that you saw for yourself?
When I was a little kid, I remember my dream was to be a composer for music scores. I remember thinking like John Williams was my hero. I don't know why. I mean, obviously I love to watch movies and I loved music as a kid. But definitely I was not out there like taking apart a computer and like selling the parts for money on the street. It was my brother that had like little toy cash register and a little checkbook that he would write little checks and receipts to people at dinner parties when he's a little kid. But that wasn't me. No, definitely you would not have guessed that I was going to be the business guy growing up when I was a little kid. Interesting.
Do you come from a family of entrepreneurs?
In fact, I do. My father has been an entrepreneur most of his life. He's the kind of guy where sometimes as kids, we didn't really know if he had a job or not. Like he never really like picked up his briefcase and left for his 9 to 5 and then came back on the 5 o'clock train or anything like that. He always dabbled in a bunch of different stuff and always had different investments. And he was in the film business, and he was in the off-Broadway show business, and now he's in the acrobatics business. So he's dabbled in a whole bunch of things. I do have one poignant memory of him though. He was starting a company. It was the movie theater, and he showed us some documents. He said, "Kids, come." Pretty old school guy in certain respects. "Kids, come here. I want to show you something." And he showed us this piece of paper. He said, "This is the piece of paper to get the loan to start the movie theater. And if the movie theater doesn't go well, we're going to lose our house."
Yes.
We didn't really know what that meant, but he definitely made a point of showing us like, hey, if you want to take some risk and you want to like start a business, this is the way you do it. So that was something that's always stuck in my mind.
That's beautiful, man. That's probably the best way someone has answered that question so far, in the detail that you went through, and the moments that you recall. So that clearly left an impression on you, as you stated. So was it in high school or college that you eventually started to see sort of the silver lining for yourself in business, or was this after even then you had a few jobs and then you saw what was going on?
Honestly, I think it kind of happened naturally. I was frankly a nerd in high school. I was a nerd in university. If you told me I had to like do public speaking or go on podcasts or anything like that, I probably would have told you that I would have been terrible at it and to pick somebody else. I just by frankly coincidence got a summer job in the second year of university, working at a facility that was producing botanical extracts as novel cancer drugs. And what drew me to it was really the I guess the day-to-day work, like the actual, getting the raw material and putting the biomass in the reactor, watching things happen, actually kind of making something. It wasn't until a couple of years later, and in fact at a different company, that I guess I sort of just naturally grew into a more of a leadership position. And then fortunately that company had some success, and I don't know, I just kind of ended up in it. It was never really a goal. It just kind of happened, I guess. Yeah.
That's awesome, man. That's really awesome. So let's go a little deeper into this Filament Health story as a company, and sort of maybe your main inspiration, aside from the mechanics of it all, of being able to just make stuff, sort of the vision for the company itself.
The vision is, I mean, I've spent probably 15 years now making high value extracts of different kinds of plant compounds. So as an example, like if you go to the health food store and you see all these little dietary supplements, your green tea extract, your blueberry extract, your this and that, your reishi mushroom extract, all these different kinds of things. I've been making those kinds of things for most of my whole career, and usually focusing on different kinds of extraction technologies, so better ways for extracting them from natural sources than commercializing them. But I'm not really like a health food nut, or like you don't see me in the health food store. I believed in the technology because we were bringing about cleaner, better, cheaper, safer ways of making the products. But frankly speaking, I wasn't really a true believer in any of the products I was making. Until the psychedelics industry kind of rolled around. And I started doing some research, and I started looking at the clinical results that were able to be obtained with these natural compounds like psilocybin. And I thought, holy smokes, I'd better, and later we had better turn our attention to extracting these compounds from nature, because they have such an unbelievable potential to help people, right? And I kind of thought really that, maybe the mushroom had a grand plan for me and had put me through this training course of, slogging away making green tea extract just to train me in order to make magic mushroom extracts. And sometimes I feel like that every day today. And really, so that's what we did, because we know that these compounds have very high promise and potential and clinical efficacy. And we also know that people prefer natural products in all aspects of their life, right? They don't prefer synthetic food colorings. They don't prefer synthetic sweeteners. They don't prefer synthetic caffeine. So why would they prefer synthetic psychedelics? Especially when most of the underground use of psychedelics is with natural compounds. I mean, there's not too many people out there on the street consuming synthetic psilocybin. It's magic mushrooms that they're consuming. And therefore, if people are more comfortable and prefer a natural product, then if there is no natural offering in the psychedelics market and only there's synthetic products available, then adoption and uptake might be less, and then potentially society and different people that are affected also stand to benefit less. So we thought that I'm talking about we as in a team of mine from a previously exited company, we almost felt like it was our duty to apply all of our knowledge of botanical extraction in order to bring a natural psychedelic option available to the market.
Yeah, man. I mean, I can just hear the passion. You've definitely stepped into something that truly you can see yourself doing for the next 10 years, which is the barometer for any business worthwhile. And it sounds like this is where I guess you call your state of flow has come in. And I'm curious, was it like every other industry where people have trouble finding talent as they're starting? Because it sounded like you had a team already previously and you sort of just stepped right into the next company. Is that sort of the way it worked out?
So one of the important lessons that I have learned along the way, and that I didn't recognize earlier on, is the importance of team and culture and chemistry and these what you would call kind of soft things. When I say we, I'm talking about myself and some former colleagues from a company that we were fortunate enough to sell and for a successful exit a couple of years ago. And going through that exit and being acquired by a much larger company with an incredibly different culture really gave me a chance to see not only how special it was, the culture that we had, but how hard it was to lose it. Because when guys in suits from Milwaukee show up and put all Windows computers on your desk overnight and say, this is the way it's going to be, and everybody gets a desk phone, like who are these people, right? And there's no choice in the matter. That's when and people start quitting and they find other jobs. And these are people that you went to war with, you went through the battles with, and they just can't take it anymore. And they quit, and understandably so. So one of the main attractions for me for starting a new company in psychedelics, not just to bring these potentially life-saving medications to the market, was the chance to get the old band back together again and reassemble with some of these colleagues. And that's given us, I think, an incredible advantage and really an incredible head start. And you see that manifests itself in such ways as the fact that, we're one of the companies that's actually operating with the controlled substances license that, many companies are striving to get this license, but since we have experience dealing with the government, we knew how to get it relatively quickly. We have what's called GMP certification, which is what you need in order to make food grade products in order for humans to consume it. And, we already have issued patents because, we have experience getting patents at previous companies, and we know who to call, we know who to turn to, and we know what to call BS on, and we can just do things much quicker, and we don't have to spend like 5 or 10 years getting to know each other. So I think, having the team and really just the joy of seeing some of that chemistry come back again has really, really been a great personal pleasure, but also has helped us, I think, be successful.
There's got to be something to this lesson, because I just spoke to somebody else earlier today who, when I asked him, I'm trying to recall what it was, how it is that they're able to see trends or take advantage and pivot and survive, and during the pandemic and everything, they immediately said it's not even about the industry. It's, can your team make the adjustment? And yet again, you're proving it. So many people talk about culture and such, but when you really got a good team, it doesn't even matter what you're doing. You just know that you can do it. And man, that lesson is real right now. Truly sitting in this energy right now. So why don't you tell me about where Filament Health wants to take this, right? Because you've essentially been able to help develop these tinctures or extracts of psilocybin, which I think is great because its ability to help, especially entrepreneurs who deal with just like this low level background depression, like an operating system just running forever because of all the stresses. There's truly use in that micro dosage and the this exact sort of situation. And now tell me if I'm misunderstanding exactly the kind of product that you're putting out there, or if that's sort of entwined with the mission and where you see things going forward.
So for the moment, since there's really no, aside from some small jurisdictions in the Caribbean and in Europe, there really is no legal market for psychedelics, right? There are controlled substances, Schedule 1 in the United States, Schedule 3 in Canada. Really the only legal thing that you can do with psilocybin is pharmaceutical research. And so that's what we're doing. But we're doing the first ever pharmaceutical research using natural psychedelics. So all FDA clinical trials up till now have used synthetic artificial psilocybin, and our mission is to change that because we think it's, for all the reasons I said before, very important to have a natural option. And the things that you mentioned, the microdosing, the kind of supplementation for healthy people as opposed to the treatment of disease, we think in those kinds of situations, natural products will be very, very much preferred. I mean, I really don't think you're not going to see many people microdosing on a daily basis with synthetic psilocybin. It just kind of sounds bizarre, right? And I think that it is bizarre. But the first step in any of that is proving that natural psilocybin can be made safe and effectively. And one of the main challenges, or maybe even the main challenge in that, is making a consistent and stable product. Because the disadvantage of using a natural input raw material is that nature is not uniform. Nature is variable. Different kinds of mushrooms can contain up to 5 times the amount of psilocybin, right? So, and we think that explains a lot of what people report about having different bad trips, or much stronger or less stronger, or, oh, this affects all these different people totally differently. Well, but if you think that this mushroom can have 5 times the amount of psilocybin as this other mushroom, imagine not knowing whether you're getting 1 gram or 5 grams of magic mushrooms. That's a big difference, right? So the first step in everything was for us to develop, for the first time, all the technology necessary to produce a stable, standardized dose, so that every time you consume, in our case, a capsule or a tablet, standardized to, in our case for now, it's high doses of 25 milligrams of psilocybin, so that you know exactly what you get. And so that when we do pharmaceutical research to study the effects, you can get a standardized and consistent dose every time. And that in the future, you can also give that same dose, so that you can say, well, if they got this 25 milligram dose, their depression did this. So we can make these claims in the future for their therapeutic. So interestingly, the fact that none of this had really been discovered before has actually allowed us to go out and get a bunch of patent applications and already some issued patents on all this kind of stuff. We think it's because of prohibition, and also because, it's a relatively poorly understood field, and also making magic mushroom extracts actually relatively complicated allowed us to go in and kind of develop some things for the first time, which sort of gave us a bit of a leg up in the IP front.
Yeah, and I honestly, I don't think I'd want anybody else other than someone as passionate as you, and I imagine your team is an extension of that, working on something like this, because it's clearly a problem that you care about, that you intend to develop an entire library of research and stable compounds to be used as examples to show that organic, natural materials can be made something that isn't necessarily a scheduled product that's going to be prohibited from consumption of the general public on a regular basis. And it's going to take that kind of effort and commitment and passion and interest to be able to make that a reality. So I'm actually pretty excited about what Filament Health is working on. And, whether or not you end up doing that as opposed to just continuing to do research, either way, it's incredibly valuable and important work. Somebody's got to do it. And I'm always grateful to hear about people who find that path and are able to say, this is what I want to work on. That's probably the hardest part in life for most people. And, the consensus is, oh, maybe you haven't tried enough things. Do you think that there's anything else out there you'd rather be doing right now other than this?
Definitely not. It sounds cliche, but working on this project I haven't been more sure about anything else in my life, other than that I love my wife and I wanted to marry her and have kids with her and all that fun stuff. But definitely, in case she ever listens to this,
I was going to say, good catch.
I was thinking on the weekend, I had a chance to reflect, and I felt, very grateful for the team and for my colleagues and for all the people that had carried the torch for these substances and been through the battles in the dark days of the war on drugs. And, here we are, young kids getting into this industry. So I just felt really thankful. And, most people don't really get a chance to do something that they really, truly love and are passionate about. And so it's easy for me to get up in the morning. We make drugs for a living, right? So our lab is not full of magic mushrooms. It's also full of cacti from which we extract mescaline. There's salvia in there. We're extracting all kinds of fun things. So there not a lot of boring days, no. But nonetheless, I feel very thankful to have the opportunity to work on something that I'm very passionate about.
Yeah, it's just great. It's just great to hear that. I think I found something similar in the form of conversations with business owners there. So it really is cool to see, because I could just sit here and learn about people all day long, man. It's just a curiosity of mine. So I guess I have to ask, where do people need to go to learn more about what Filament Health is doing and sort of stay connected and in touch with you as well, Ben, on everything that you guys are doing?
Go to our website. Our website contains all the information you need to learn more. Feel free to reach out at any time. Our contact information is on our website. Sign up for our mailing list. I told we had a 70% open rate of our email list the other day, so it must be full of lots of interesting and insightful tidbits. So it's not boring run-of-the-mill stuff. We are a publicly traded company, so and we're traded on the NEO exchange in Canada. Soon we're going to be listed on the OTC Venture Exchange in the United States. So if people are passionate about bringing natural psychedelics to market and joining the team and helping support us, that's certainly a way, and their support is very much appreciated, of course.
Absolutely, man. Now, I have a question that I've asked everyone that's stopped by the show, and I never get enough of asking it because the answer is never the same, but you are welcome to pass. And that is, if you could have invited anybody today to join us, dead or alive, who would it be and why?
It would definitely be Albert Hofmann. So Albert Hofmann was the Swiss pharmaceutical chemist who identified many of these psychedelic compounds for the first time. We don't say discovered, right? Because these compounds have been known by indigenous people for thousands of years and used by them, right? And they in fact kept them alive again for instance, when the Catholic Church came to Central and South America, they made the use of these substances illegal because they thought it was competitive to, their version of events. So it went underground, but nonetheless, they kept it alive. And these compounds were, I should say, the raw materials, the mushrooms and the fungi were brought to Albert Hofmann. And he was able to identify them. In the case of LSD, he actually experienced the very first LSD trip, at least in modern history, or at least in modern recording. And the fascinating thing about that is, so he's the only person we know of that consumed a psychedelic without having any idea what it would do to him, right? And the interesting thing about that is, psychedelics are highly suggestive, right? So if I give you a magic mushroom and I say this has psilocybin and it's going to make you laugh, you're probably going to laugh, right? Or if I say it's going to make you yawn or it's going to make you talkative, it's probably going to make you do all those things. That's just the nature of these substances. But in Albert Hofmann's case, he didn't have that. He had no idea what it was or what it would do. So there he is tripping on LSD, and he describes it's the day that celebrates this occasion is called Bicycle Day because he decided to go on a bike ride. So, anyways, I would want to talk to him,
Yes.
And have him describe that. As well as what it was like to identify these compounds, and we can talk about the science because we still use some of his literature. The methods that he developed for isolating and creating psilocybin are still widely used today. So he had a humongous impact on the industry. And I would want to get his views on synthetic versus natural, and if some of the natural manufacturing techniques were available in his day that we have now. Would maybe he have stuck to just extracting it from nature rather than going into a synthetic process? So, anyways, my answer to that question is Albert Hofmann.
That's amazing, man. It sounds very much like a Carlos Castaneda book. If you've ever read any of that stuff, it's pretty crazy stuff. There was like one of them, I think was called The Warrior Within, and another The Active Side of Infinity or something. It's just talking about a trip to visit a shaman, and they give him, I think it was like a version of ayahuasca or something. And just, yeah, man, you can't make some of that stuff up, no matter how imaginative you are, because some of it just had to be documented and told exactly the way it went down. So yeah, I really appreciate getting a chance to know you being open, telling me about your life as you were growing up. I do hope one day you do get to compose a score for a TV show or a film or something, Or maybe just a commercial explaining your research, why not?
A jingle. Maybe I'll just do a bunch of magic mushrooms and compose something really clever. Yeah. A jingle for the eventual magic mushroom product. Yes.
Yes. It'd be the epic, ultimate full circle. But yeah, Ben, it's been a real pleasure. Again, I want to reiterate to people, go ahead and check out Filament Health online. And the website, what was the website again?
Filament.health.
Filament.health. Benjamin Lightburn, thanks for stopping by.
You're very welcome. Anytime. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks for listening to Action and Ambition with your host, Andrew Metal. Please leave a review and subscribe, and go to andrewmetal.com for all the exclusive lessons, behind-the-scenes footage, and video content of the show. Follow us on Facebook and YouTube at Action and Ambition, and we'll see you on the next episode.